probably the best week of my life, the best 3 days of my life. It was very emotional to be in that car. I was like a little kid on Christmas morning. My name is Matt Busa, 28 years old, from Darien, Illinois, and I run an eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series and the Skip Barber iRacing series. I've not just been a sim racer, I've really wanted to be a real racer ever since I was a little kid. And go-karting, anything I've done in my childhood, I was pretty successful at, always at the top of the leaderboards, winning races, and I just never had the chance, the money, to go to real life racing. So then, when the Skip Barber series was announced, I was like, this is my chance. I win this, I get to race in the Skip Barber Formula Series in real life. The competition was very tough. Guys like Elvis Rankin, they went from the iRacing series to the real life series and dominated it. Yeah, that was really my first time doing any open wheel car at all. On iRacing, I focused on NASCAR, obviously, GT3s, the Mazda Miatas even. So the open wheel cars take a little bit different techniques. Entering the corner, the braking, very powerful brakes. Laguna's a track where the Mazdas on iRacing race at a lot. So I had probably hundreds, if not thousands of laps at that track. So I was kind of expecting to do well, had it circled on the calendar. The race was about midway through the season. So at that point, I kind of knew that Elvis and Mikel were the number one and number two drivers.
Let's get ourselves ready. Matt Busa with control of the field then here for what is an important race. The green flag in the air, and we are underway. Busa leads, Rankin in second. Garda is up into third position.
And Matt Busa, this has been a really impressive drive. To put the car on pole, mighty impressive indeed. But everything that Elvis Rankin and Mikel Gatti have thrown at him, he's responded. He's a tenth quicker than both Rankin and Gatti last time by. So whenever he's been asked the question, he's had the answer.
Rounding the final corner, Matt Busa with a good drive off of the exit. This is vindication for a 10-plus year sim racing career. He takes race one here at Laguna Seca.
Anytime I'll see a chance to go from sim to reality, I'm going to take it. I'm going to try my hardest to make it happen, and luckily we were able to do that with the Skip Barber, and we got the Skip Barber Racing School at Lime Rock Park. The Lime Rock is my favorite track in iRacing. I have thousands of laps there. I used to always make sure I held the world records and the solstices on the Mazdas there. And if anyone beat me, I would be on the computer before school to try to get that new world record. It was tough to sleep that night before. My whole life, like I said, just wanting to be this real race car driver, and this is my first opportunity to drive a real race car. Seeing the track for the first time in person, after seeing it so many times in the sim, was just unbelievable. Like, I expected the track to be similar. Seeing the signs, I'd be like, oh yeah, I know that sign was going to be there. There's one tree in particular, actually, the way some of the tree branches are, it's really thick branches so they don't move throughout the seasons. Angled kind of over the track, and it was my braking point actually on iRacing. And then I get in the real car and it was the same exact thing, and the instructor actually mentioned that tree. I was like, I already know that, thanks to iRacing. We got to go on a skid pad. We had a slick right rear tire on an old Nissan Altima, and we just did some circles, understanding what the car felt like when it was tight, had understeer, or loose oversteer. We also had a bunch of classroom instructions, videos, taking notes, learning the track, learning about the formula car. I did have some nerves though. I really wanted to be able to feel what a car at speed when it oversteered felt like, so I can correct it. And I was just a little bit nervous that the first time it oversteers that I wouldn't feel it and I might spin out. So day 2 was our first day at speed. Skip Barber organized it really well. They had instructors at every corner of the track that would watch you. You would get feedback from every corner of the track, where you could improve, what you did wrong, what you did good, and learn, go do another lap, and then right when you complete it, stop again, more feedback. First time at speed, I really did feel the G-forces, especially in the downhill turn. Almost full speed through there, just flat out with a small lift, and that's where I felt the G-forces the most. And the very first session, I was like a little woozy, like, well, that felt a little weird. And then second session though, it just felt completely normal. Got used to it right away. Yeah, the differences between the real car and the sim car is really not many. Just the visual aspect, first of all, when you get in the car, the steering wheel, the colors of the buttons, where the buttons on the wheel are, everything exact same. So I had like a really high comfort level just from that alone. When you stomp on the brakes, just the brake pressure I was able to feel, and how the car slowed down just felt really natural to me. just like it did in the sim. Going through the corners, I was able to have the same marks that I used in iRacing for getting back on throttle, back to full throttle. As far as feeling the car get oversteer, like I mentioned, I did get oversteer once, and it was in the moment a little scary because I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that. But then I was able to correct it, and it just was super natural, and that just gave me a ton of confidence right there. And from that lap forward, I just pushed harder and harder because I knew that if I did get a little out of shape, I would be able to correct it because it felt just like it would in iRacing. I just want to be back in a real race car. That's my dream. That's my goal for the future. Live, breathe, eat, sleep racing. I sim race almost every day just for fun because racing is in my blood. It's in my DNA. It's what I want to do. So hopefully I get another chance to hop in a real race car and prove myself.
Tonight on Countdown to Green, we recap all the action from Daytona. We talk with part owner of Rise Esports, Baba Smith. We take a look at how you're racing at home with the Logitech Show Us Your Rig segment. All that and more tonight on Countdown to Green.
'Cause we're invincible.
Hello and welcome to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. This is Countdown to Green and we are in Milwaukee. I'm your host, Camille Salazar-Hadaway, and joining me as always, we have Alan Cavada and Blake McCandless. How you doing, Blake? I see you're twinning today.
Yeah, a little bit. And I guess I think I had the pullover, and I think Alan's got the polo on, so a little bit separate. But I'm excited, Camille. I'm so excited to see a totally different track that we haven't seen in this series history before. It's a different direction, but a good one, I think, for this series to take. So really excited to see how these drivers tackle the Milwaukee Mile tonight.
Yeah, it was about 80 degrees in Charlotte today, so I went with polo. But I'm excited for the same reason you are, Blake, is that we're going to the Milwaukee Mile. That was part of the excitement going into this season here in the Coke Series, is that we were going to different tracks we hadn't seen in a while, tracks that are different from the ones you may see on Sunday. We start that tonight going to the Milwaukee Mile. I'm excited.
I'm excited as well, and there has been a lot of surprises this season, and we have to talk about everything that we have coming ahead. But before we can do that, we got to talk Daytona. Let's have a look.
Lights out on top of the pace car field in the hands of Dylan Duvall. For the first time in 2023, we say, let's go racing at Daytona. This one's going to get woed up before they could even get close to speed. It was contact coming out of the tri-oval. We got some 3 wide brewing middle of the road, and look out, the 45 of Michael Guest hooked up with the 7 of Malik Ray, and they are making some headway. A great save and a great aggressive drive to pit road as they slow it down to pit road speed of 60 miles an hour. That is a group of 4 cars. Cozy, Minter, Zelensky, Lopez Jr. all down pit road. That this incident came from that secondary pack. We've spent the last, 10, 15 laps talking about when they don't make up that ground, they're going to get desperate, it's going to get sloppy, and that's exactly what happened as they went down the back straightaway into turn 3. Pace car going to be off this time. Everybody now going to join a 36-car lead pack. Only one can win the season opener. Green, white checker at Daytona. Green flag in the air. 2 laps to go. Wrecking behind, but will they get to the white in time? It's attempt number 2 at a green-white checker. Overtime restart. Green flag in the air. Kerwin leads it at 2 to go. Kerwin, Minter, Ray, now the one of Bordeaux, your top 4 cars as they race off of turn number 4 for the final time. What can Tucker Minter do in his first career start? There's contact. Kerwin's into the outside wall, and Tucker Minter finds victory lane in his first career eNASCAR race.
Wow, what a ending to that race. Just when you think someone's gonna lock it in, you never know what's gonna happen. Blake, what were your thoughts?
Well, first off, it's incredible to see Tucker Minter win in his first career start. But the one thing that really sticks out about Daytona is who was up front yet again. Casey Kerwin had something to say about the outcome of this race. And this is something, of course, he won the championship last year, we know, but he's on a hot streak dating back to last year. Hasn't finished outside of the top 4 in his last 5 starts. And I think we're going to see a better version, if you can imagine, of Casey Kerwin this year. He's battled tested. He has the playoff experience. He now has the championship experience. And I still think, despite the fact that, you know, he won $100,000 last year, that he is as motivated as ever to try to get the job done. And again, this is at Daytona. This is a track where he could have easily just not gotten track position, not been a part of it. But Casey Kerwin still a factor at Daytona. I think he'll be a factor tonight as well, Alan.
Yeah, and I was surprised from Daytona, guys, that where's the controversy? Am I the only one who thinks Casey Kerwin got turned at the end of this race for the win? If you look online, if you ask the drivers, yeah, I think I might be the only one who thinks that. So, look, it was an aggressive move. Tucker's got to do what he's got to do for the win, but it did just surprise me that there wasn't more talk that Casey got turned, because I thought that wasn't really a heck of a block that he threw. So kudos to Casey. He is the champion for a reason, and I think it all starts with him. When we saw the final lap here in Daytona and what it was going to come down to and how exactly it ended, again, Casey's in position to lead this entire race, or to lead in overtime and get the victory, and he ends up not doing it. But he was the one, I think he sort of took blame, said no hard feelings, and I think everyone's attitude kind of fell like a domino from that. But to me, I felt like there would have been more controversy, especially with the online chatter. It wasn't there, Camille.
You're the only one looking for that controversy. Not even Casey is, all right? Let it go. Let it go, Alan. But we know Tucker took it, so let's find out what that means for the points, Blake.
Well, we take a look at our point standings here, and again, one race in, a lot more to happen, but I think the one thing looking at these standings that really stands out to me, how about Tyler Gary, a debut race for Tony Kanaan Esports? Didn't talk about him a whole lot in that race, but as far as rookies are concerned, he was just one of 3 that sits in the top 10 of the point standings right now. What kind of springboard is this for the rest of his season, being able to carry that momentum and prove to these drivers that you can execute on the long run? You can also be put in very high pressure situations early in your career. Again, there's no level of racing like the Coke Series that these drivers are going to experience. So very a good run for him. And oh, by the way, 11th through 13th right there, all 3 former series champions.
Ooh, looking nice. And you know what you mentioned, Kanaan Esports. Alan, I have to ask, what does this mean for the team standings?
Yeah, check that out. I mean, it's Kanaan Esports right up there in the top 10. 3 new teams in the top 10. That's what I see. Some new blood there. Alan Bowes, a part of Front Row Motorsports. I think those Front Row teammates could have worked a little better at the end of the race, frankly, in Daytona. Him and Michael Cozy Jr., they could have worked together, and I think one of them should have probably won the race. I'm a little biased because I picked Cozy, but just seeing Front Row up there, you know, being on top of the points. You have Kanaan Esports that we mentioned, and also Pittsburgh Knights. We can't forget them. Corey Vincent, Ryan Doucette, to have them get a good start at Daytona, that's important. We talk team standings all year for a reason, because that pays some money as well when we get to the end of this year at Homestead. So the team standings so important, and even after one race, it's good to see some new blood up there.
All right, well, we do see one team that is capping out the team standings, Rise Esports, and there's still lots of time for them to pull up in the ranks. Meanwhile, we got a chance to sit with the new team owner, Mamba Smith, so let's take a look.
I'm excited to be here. iRacing has given me so many opportunities. Without iRacing, when I was out of the seat, I never would have been able to keep working on it to compete in the Diversity Combine, NASCAR Drive for Diversity Combine. So it's excited to be back in the space. It's been a minute. It's changed a lot, but I'm excited to be here. I've always wanted to be an owner of some kind, and I've done it a little bit in late model racing. And now to be here in iRacing doing it is even cooler. And these guys they're excited. They want to win. And I tell them, look, we're here to have a good time, but we're here to do it at a high level. So getting to know them and their personalities a little bit, I'm gonna pull them out of their shell a little bit. They're gonna probably be a little new to some of what is Mamba Smith, but we're gonna have a good time, and they're gonna really show out and show up this year. I'm excited. I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Anything that you see from Rise Esports is probably not planned from the start. It's very off the cuff. That's very much how I am and how I operate. I'll be, sitting there just thinking about ideas and fire off into our text group, and everyone so far seems to like it, so it's working out good. But I remember being a kid, and on the 50th anniversary, Hendrick had that car. And it was so cool, and it was iconic. It was a one-off, right? No one else could do that. And the minute I saw 75, and obviously I'm wearing the shirt with this badass logo, I'm like, we got to be able to play into this somehow. So I asked the powers that be, and apparently the number was available, so we scooped it up. I would say to make sure to be on the lookout for some cool designs incorporated in the 75th anniversary, some history, some legacy stuff, and of course we got the 46. A little cold trickle action going on over there too. So you never know what we're going to be coming up with. iRacing, it brings so much to life, right? It allows us to show what we do on track to a vast majority of people all over the world versus just here in the United States. So it's getting our reach out there, especially me being a short track guy, like to be able to show that part of our sport and our industry, I think is huge, right? And this isn't like basketball or football or any other stick and ball sport where you can go practice whenever you want. Like, this is a training tool for real life. And our drivers here in iRacing and in the Coke League, they're really ready to go to real life. This is a step for them to make that. And some of them will. And I love seeing that. We've seen guys like William Byron, Josh Berry, Raja, have used iRacing to step into real world, and it pays off dividends, obviously.
Great stuff from Mamba. It's so cool to have new blood in ownership right here in the series. We saw that in the point standings. But just to, again, have that connection to the Sunday series, right? The pavement on NASCAR, we get that with Mamba. He's known as the chief hype officer over at NASCAR, so he can bring some of that energy down here. And a rumor, he talked about cool paint schemes. It sounds like they've got a cool one tonight dedicated to 2003. Oh, look at that. That is a throwback, a retro for Matt Kenseth when he won the championship back in 2003. One of the killer bees. That is black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Pittsburgh team. They're gonna be mad at that, guys.
I wanted to hear you sing the full song, Alan. I was waiting for it. I thought you were committed here.
We only have so much time, Camille. Maybe next episode.
All right, we'll be waiting for it. That's my dream for the end of the series, to hear Alan sing Black and Yellow. Maybe we'll make it happen here. But for now, we actually got to talk about a series, our companion series, that got a little yellow going on as well, Blake.
It certainly did, and that is the eNASCAR College iRacing Series. This was back last Tuesday night at Dover, and again, this is an opportunity for students, if they're going to college, that they can sign up through the Time Attack feature through iRacing and compete for scholarship money obviously to get a little bit of that tuition paid off. Which, first thing about this series, I'm so jealous that I have graduated and I'm not a student anymore, so I cannot compete in this series. But you could see this is per race, $3,500 to win on iRacing, and that gets cut off of your college tuition. I mean, that is an incredible opportunity for a lot of these drivers. $15,000 a race, $60,000 for the entire deal. Logan Clampett, obviously a part of the Coke Series, won that race. Daniel Buttafuoco, an eNASCAR champion in his own right, took home second. But man, that is an incredible opportunity to take home scholarship money on iRacing and to represent your university.
Yeah, you're helping progress your education, but also following your passion as well. It's the dream. Sorry, you had to miss out on that one, Blake.
Oh well.
Maybe you'll enroll in school again. Who knows? But for now, we actually had a chance to catch up with Ryan Luza, and our in-pit reporter James Pike got all the deets on him competing in the snowball derby.
So I ran the snowball a couple months ago, and it had to be the most miserable race that I've ran personally, but it was still a one-time thing that not a lot of people get to do, and I'd never trade it. Just didn't work out. I mean, it's 300 laps, longest race I've ever ran by 200, right? So I was in pain. It was a whole different deal than I could have expected, but it was really cool to race against Thorne, Majeski, all those guys. You don't get tougher competition than that unless you're actually at the cup level of NASCAR. So really, really neat to do that and have that opportunity.
Let's dig into New Smyrna a little bit and talk about your World Series, because you did have some success. I saw a good chunk of it on social media. So what was it like to go to Victory Lane at one of the bigger short track events of the year, and at a track that also conveniently is available on the service as well? Did you use the New Smyrna and the Sims to help prepare for getting to Victory Lane?
I didn't get on too much. It was a last minute deal. I got the call on Tuesday, and I had to get my flight out for Wednesday night. So it was a really, really last minute deal, but I had turned laps in New Smyrna, and I'd been there a couple times in real life. But yeah, it was a really, really neat deal. I never thought I'd run Speed Weeks just because of the cost of it, but we got a really good deal. So I have to thank everyone at Jet Motorsports for that opportunity, as well as AMS Roofing and Nuvo Elevator for helping make it happen. It's a tiring week. We're there for 9 days, and you're out past midnight probably every night, and at the track, leaving the hotel before 8. So really, really fun week, very tiring, but really cool to be able to get to do these once in a, I wouldn't say once in a lifetime, but cool to get to do these big events, like the Derby and Speed Weeks. So hopefully we can continue making these big events happen.
How has running in the sim and being so successful on iRacing helped you gain notoriety in the real life bits? Have there been people that have come up to you and talked about your Coke Series exploits when you're racing in the garages at New Smyrna and Five Flags and places like that? Or does it help market yourself to some of these teams to try and get real world opportunities?
I think so. I mean, every single time I make it to the racetrack, I always have at least a couple people come and talk to me about it. And as much as I hate to say it, I think I'm more known for iRacing stuff than I am in the real life stuff, just because I haven't got to race that much. But it's cool because it's a different angle to have to be known. You know what I mean? Because that's what's important, is people recognizing your name, and that's what brings sponsors. So it's definitely helped a lot, but I probably would prefer being more well known for real life stuff. So we'll see if we can make that happen.
I know that you've spent a lot of time in the sim, a lot of time racing there and places elsewhere. What's that sort of symbiotic relationship like? How does running in the sim prepare you for running in the real world, and how does running in the real world help you out in the sim?
See, I don't really know the answer to that, but I know that it has to help because, compared to all these guys that I'm racing with, I race a fraction of the amount they do, but I get to come on and I race whenever I want, right? So I'm a firm believer that that's always helped me. Like last year I raced 3 times in the entire year, and everyone else races 30, 40 times, you know what I mean? They're racing every weekend. So I'm a firm believer that's what lets me be able to show up after not being in a car for a year or two, and just come up there and be competitive and go out and win races.
Great stuff from Ryan and James there. And you can see Ryan, this is a live look at practice going on right now. Beautiful. Looks like a matte black paint scheme there, kind of old school. I got to give him credit. I mean, what a racer. We saw the back of his house or wherever he was. I don't think he unpacked a thing, but he unpacked his sim equipment because he wanted to be on racing. So you know he's dedicated to this, guys.
No, that's all that matters, right? And, you know, great to see those paint schemes. I think even Kerwin, those XSET cars are taking a darker shade tonight. But also, I mean, he's not the only one that's been out here racing. Donovan Strauss was the Pro Division champion at the Winter Nationals at Citrus County. Within the last couple of weeks, 3 wins, 2 fourth-place finishes down there. And again, he had never been to Citrus County before arriving on Monday and running down there all week. So Donovan Strauss, one of our very own, I got to talk to him down at Daytona last year about his Legends car driving and him racing at Atlanta Motor Speedway and how much of a help that has been for him in his second year in the Coke Series.
I mean, that's awesome. That's amazing. Like, just to see all these drivers in our series then going and hitting the track IRL. We love to see it. We love to talk about it, and we love to showcase it. And you guys know what I love a lot about Countdown to Green. That's right. I love our next segment because this is where we get to see your rigs at home. This is Show Us Your Rigs by our partners at Logitech. And our first one, Ryan, I'm loving that stream setup. You have the vertical monitor there.
Yeah, beautiful. Nice and sleek. This is a desk mount here for Carol. This is nice. Love the pedals down there. Need some cord management, but you're good. You're good.
Nice little screenshot right there. The Legends at a road course right there. Oh, this reminds me of college a little bit, racing on a laptop. It can be done.
It can be done, and it will be done. Whatever it takes to get in the sim, right?
Here's a winner. Michael Conti, a winning setup, if you will, in many more ways than one. That's a pro right there.
The largest chair I think I've ever seen in sim racing.
He's not a big guy either.
It's his throne. It's his throne.
So this was Ryan Luza. So he was down because he was down there in New Smyrna. He was at Daytona, and this was kind of his temporary setup a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, was caught up in a lap 1 accident. Didn't really get to compete all that much, but nevertheless, getting it done wherever it might be, even with the wooden chair.
Yeah, every kitchen has that chair in America.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. This was down at the Daytona 500. It was a packed crowd, so I hope you were one of the lucky people that got to see this Victory Sim setup, because that was one of the many amenities for the hundreds of thousands fans that were down there. Such a cool deal.
I feel like we just need to take one of these setups and bring them home.
Yeah,
we
come on.
need to take them and bring them home, but we want to see more of your setups at home. Use the hashtag eNASCAR. Tweet us at iRacing as well to show us your rigs. We love to get a glimpse at what some racing looks like for you. And we got a glimpse earlier at Rise Esports talking to Mamba Smith, but now it's time to take a look at the drivers.
I've been with Rise since way back before it was even branded as Rise Esports. We were Richmond Raceway Esports, and before that, we were the Chaos crew with Richmond Raceway. So we've been around a long time. It was the first team to come into the series, and you know, now we have 20 of them, and I've just had a lot of loyalty there, and I really want to chase a championship with these guys. We've had a lot of success, but haven't chased that title just yet, and that's what 2023 is all about.
I'm returning to Rise Esports because of the culture. I love the people and the atmosphere we've built over the last few years. I'm really looking forward to, you know, trying to chase the championship this year.
The race that I always have circled on my calendar, if it's there, is New Hampshire, and it's there again this year. 3-time winner there, 3 times in a row now, so trying to make it 4. That's a tall task, but I feel like I'm more than capable of doing it. Done it 3 times already, and I know I'll have the team behind me to do it.
Jimmy's one of the best teammates you can ask for. Good friend of mine, always has been, always will be. We work well together and very easy to get along with. So, you know, makes my job easy when your teammate's easy to get along with.
A memory that stands out to me would have to be the 2019 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Championship race. my teammate Zach Novak ended up winning the championship that night. And I just remember I ended up third that night, led a lot of laps, and, you know, was just kind of with my buddy Zach the whole time in his route to his first championship. So that was a really cool experience for not only me, but obviously Zach and our whole group. And, you know, getting to celebrate that. In real life, we all got to go to Homestead after that and celebrate together, which was really cool for all of us.
You know, very memorable moment for me in my life and my family's life. You know, it was very exciting for me. I never really envisioned myself being in that position, and then, you know, it kind of just came at me so fast. I didn't really realize how lucky I was, especially kind of struggling these past few years. You know, I really, I want to get back, you know, to that level, and so I can really appreciate it and, you know, really enjoy it for a second time. I'm very excited to work with Mamba. He's, you know, one of the prominent figures in the NASCAR community right now. And, you know, he's a really cool guy. Really excited to work with him.
Super excited to work with Mamba Smith and, you know, everybody on the back end over there. I think the energy is great. I know that we're going to bring out a lot of good content this year with Rise Esports. And I think Rise is going to be the most fun team this year, and I think we're going to prove that every single day.
There's lots of passion that you see like these drivers talk about and wanting to get back to maybe a level that they were before, or looking to shake and make some waves on the track as well. You gotta love it. Now I want to take a chance to go down the Milwaukee Mile. Blake, what can we expect with the race ahead?
Well, let's take a look at what is up for these drivers at the Milwaukee Mile tonight as we take a look over top right here in West Allis, Wisconsin. Not quite in Milwaukee, of course. It is 1 mile, as the name implies. And interesting note here, and what our producer Drew Adamson has made us aware of. And, you know, I was watching the 1999 Busch Grand National Series race here, and Buddy Baker was talking about the 9 degrees of banking. iRacing's data that they scanned is 5 degrees. So every media guide, every bit of track information out there that says 9, guess what? It's actually 5 degrees of banking. So even less than it probably should be listed at, but the data is not wrong. And of course, it is the debut race for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And we'll take a look at a lap here at the Milwaukee Mile. This is going to be a very difficult racetrack to maneuver, and you have a lot of freedom here in 1 and 2. Not only moving around the racetrack a little bit, but shifting. You can diamond the line, and you can do a lot of things, especially on the short run. Shifting will probably be a factor at some point in this race. And then 3 and 4, another corner where you're just wanting to ride on the bottom, and you have to be out of the throttle so much here at this racetrack. You'll get back on the straightaway, and, well, that is 1 lap at the Milwaukee Mile.
All right, and these drivers are gonna have to take that in and really just try to do their best because you want to get off to a good start in this series. And as we saw last race, anything could happen. And I learned anything could happen with your picks as well.
Ah, man. Tough start.
Learned about
Last year's champ, 1 point. Wow, that's impressive. It's hard to get 1 point.
Well, let's talk about our picks going into this race. Blake, you start things off.
Well, I'm going to start things off here with, there's been some surprise winners at the past at this racetrack. You talk about Buckshot Jones in 1996, Casey Atwood, and I wouldn't say this would be a surprise, but I'm going to go with the 3-time former winner in this series. Joey Brown was storming in the Contender Series this past year, and I think he's going to make not a debut, it's a return after 8 years out of the series, but I think he goes to victory lane tonight.
Nice pick, not bad, but I'm going with, we heard from him earlier. We know his record from Midland, North Carolina. It's Jimmy Mullis. He has won at flat tracks like New Hampshire, the last 2? He's won there 3 times. You go back even further, won at another flat track like Pocono. This, as we've just seen, is a flat track Jimmy Mullis, the man tonight. What did I write down? Jimmy is a gimme tonight.
Oh, man.
Man, now we have to come up with catchphrases. Thanks, Alan. Thanks.
Hashtag.
For my pick, I am going back to who I know and love. Steven Wilson. Last year, he brought me lots of luck, and I'm looking for a little bit of redemption and to play it safe because last year he actually did not too bad on this track. So let's go. Hopefully, we're gonna play it safe and come out with a good pick.
Can't go any worse than last week.
That'd be very tough.
Thanks for rubbing it in my face. But we have no more chat to get to because guess what? We are getting closer to race time. And we have the race coming up right after this break. So stick around.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
When I hit the wall, this thing shook like crazy. I have experienced that in real life, so I can compare.
I tend to choose rally games that are really putting the actuators through their paces, and they've been holding up really well.
That's exactly how it is in real life. That's the coolest part.
Here and now is when it matters most. Heavy damage. Not last month or last week or 48 laps ago when that bumper fell off. He's done. Here is where it must be left on the track. The anger, the hunger, the passion, and the drive to do whatever it takes to make it across that finish line first.
Blow those rear tires off us, bud.
Now is when the future is written. In the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
This is our series, where the stakes are always higher, where virtual meets reality. This is the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Yeah, look at my shine with the blow. This is my time with it though. This is my time to be way at the top. Me and my guys gon' pay out the block. I don't look like ball. Time's right, and I know the city's walking in a long night. Promise you won't wanna watch like a sci-fi. My guys are high risers, high tide. My crown if you come to my side. I pledge allegiance for lifetime. My squad connected like Wi-Fi. We grind and you see the highlights. This my life. It ain't a game now. Me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you wanna play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Don't step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
To $300,000 makes a rare first in the series' 14-year history, where tonight from iRacing's virtual Milwaukee Mile, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round number 2 of the 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And happy that you're with us upstairs as always, joined alongside by Blake McCandless. My name is Evan Pasoko, and Blake, it is true, not many things can surprise us these days in year 14 of eNASCAR iRacing competition, but there are two notable firsts. The first here tonight, and it is not a new track. This track has over 100 years of history. Tonight, though, it makes its first stop on the eNASCAR calendar.
Well, and it's been a part of the iRacing service for a very long time, so it's not new to a lot of these drivers, but again, new in eNASCAR competition, new with these drivers, and again, these guys did not have the opportunity to practice and race against each other like they often do because the Cup Series is at Las Vegas, and they didn't get the opportunity to race against each other in typical A-class competition like they do. So I think there's a lot of unknowns, not only for the drivers, but with these teams and the amount of speed that each of them has.
We've never seen a NASCAR Cup race here at Milwaukee until tonight with the eNASCAR. Let's go down trackside and introduce you to your starting grid for tonight's D-Box 100. It is a William Byron Esports lockout on the front row as both Nick Ottinger and Matt Busa will occupy the number 1 and 2 starting positions, and it is an Elliott Sadler Esports lockout with 3rd and 4th for Cody Bias and Derek Bordeaux. Then row number 3, we'll see the Team Dillon Esports entry of the 3 of Jordy Lopez, that team headed by Austin Dillon, alongside the X-Set number 95 of Casey Kerwin. Row number 4, we'll see the Stuart Haas Esports 41 of Dylan Duvall, alongside the Charlotte Phoenix 48 of Graham Bolin. And inside of your top 5, you'll see the Jim Beaver Esports number 7 of Malik Ray, alongside the Junior Motorsports number 8 of Michael Conti.
And a good way for Malik Ray to follow up that second place last week. Steven Wilson, Championship 4 competitor for Stuart Haas, will roll off 11th. 12th to his outside will be Vicente Salas for Williams Esports. Back in row number 7, it's Bobby Zielinski, JGR, represented there, along with Colin Bowden, who said he didn't have any practice. Didn't seem to hurt him too much. He starts in 15th. Alan Bosey inside of row number 8 for Front Row Motorsports, along with the Pittsburgh Knights' own Corey Vincent to his outside of the 16th position. Michael Cozy Jr. starts in the 19th position, or excuse me, 17th position. Caden Honeycutt in 18th for RFK Racing. 19th and 20th, respectively. Back to row number 10. We'll go to Wyatt Tinsley and Parker White.
Couple of new teams there on row 10 with Tony Cadon's entry as well. Then you have the FGR Excel number 12 of Garrett Maines, alongside the Latart Esports 36 of Brandon McKissick. Row number 12, we'll see the X-Set number 4 of Ryan Lewson, the second of the Jeter Motorsports Chevrolets. It's the 88 car of Kevin King. Then the Rise Esports fueled by Sudoku 46 of Jimmy Mullis, alongside TK's second entry. It's the Canadian Esports 66 car. Dylan Alt's number 40 for Latart Esports, going to be alongside the FGR 14 of Joey Brown. And through position number 30, it's the RFK Racing 6 of Timmy Holmes, and the 2311, that's the joint venture between Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan, the 45 car of Michael Guest.
Well, you can see right there Mama Smith's own Rise Esports, a beautiful throwback, but unfortunately going to go from the 31st starting spot tonight. 32nd will be E-Racer's own Colin Keister. Back in row number 17, Ryan Doucette for the Pittsburgh Knights and Derek Justice for the Kansas City Pioneers, starting in 33rd and 34th. The other 2311 entry, Keegan Leahy, starts on the inside of row number 18, with last week's winner going off from 36th in Tucker Minter for Team Dillon Esports, who, by the way, has a sponsor on that race car. Inside of row 19, Jim Beaver's own Garrett Lowe and Donovan Strauss for Williams Esports on the outside of row 19. And back in row 20, just one driver back here, Daniel Falkingham for JGR. 39 drivers set to do battle for us tonight at the Milwaukee Mile.
It's looked at the bottom at your iRacing starting grid. No man has more pole positions in series history than the driver of the Logitech G25 Chevrolet. It is Nick Ottinger on a pole position tonight in Milwaukee. Blake, you've got him dialed up.
Nick, this is Blake McCandless. It seems to be a pretty good qualifying run for you, but you also have your teammate right next to you. What's your outlook here going into tonight?
Well, going out to the night is pretty simple. We go out, got the pole. Next objective is to go win the race. Myself or Matt Busa, my teammate next to me. Got to thank our team, our supporters that are with our William Byron Esports team, Logitech G, and everyone that helps this 25 and 97 team. Try to get on the front row and stay there.
Her track position is going to be very important tonight. What's the plans to try to keep it?
Well, I'll keep it clean. It's the #1 game. everything's basically going to be about managing your stuff early on and not get put in the second lane. You get put in the second lane, you're just going to be utilizing a lot of the right side tire, and do that, you got to really pinch some guys below you and have a chance for the exit. So just keep it clean, keep it out front, manage our stuff, and keep our pit strategy as clean as we can as well.
All right, Nick, we'll give you the one to go. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Well, that's the guy that's going to kick this thing off. Now walk us through it, Blake, as we take a look at our race analysis presented by iRacing.
100 laps going to be pretty straightforward here. 45 miles an hour and a very awkward pit road entry here that some of these drivers, if they haven't practiced it enough, it may reach out and bite them. Of course, that pit stop time could be anywhere from 12 to about 14 seconds. You have 3 sets of tires available, which by Nick Ottinger's own admission will be very important tonight. Now that fuel window, Evan, it says 50 to 55 laps, but with the amount of shifting or lack thereof, that window could shift pretty significantly depending on if you're going back down to 4th or perhaps even 3rd gear when talking to some of these drivers.
It's going to be a good one. A lot of drivers have been looking forward to this one, and another opportunity to try to race your way in to the postseason is on deck right here, right now. As always, happy that you're spending your Tuesday evening with us on the iRacing Sports Network. Pace car to dive down, leaving the field in the hands of Nick Ottinger as we say, let's go racing in the D-Box 100. A lot of squirrely action, beating and banging as they head off to 1 and 2 for the first time, side by side for about 5th, and for the number 2 spot. But up front, it's your pole sitter, Nick Ottinger, clear down to turn 3.
And using a lot of that clean air right there to just get clear and get gone is Nick Ottinger. As you can see, the field scattering around them, kind of an established bottom lane is where everybody's going to want to go early. But you see that battle side by side for second has subsided. Cody Bias is able to get the best of that. And boy, did Dylan Duval make a very aggressive move down into turn number 1 to try to make it 3 wide. But it's working out for him as he's cracked the top 5.
He gained 3 quick spots, started this race 7th. He's 4th right now, and making a big swing to the inside there goes the 7 car. That's Malik Ray trying to make some noise, make up for some positions as well. He is also +3. So common denominator there is drivers who started on the inside. Big gains in the opening 2 laps.
We saw a lot of stacking up there up the road. We know that's been a conversation if you watch the Cup Series race at Auto Club this past weekend, but that entire outside lane, not only is the bottom going to be preferred throughout the night, but just not a great launch that you can see right here as we're going to ride on board back here further back in the pack. Garrett Main's running in 17th, and you can see the log jam in front of it, right in front of him, Evan. Just everybody trying to get down to the bottom and trying to find a way around Michael Cozy Jr.
And if I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. Garrett always gives us the best view in sim racing with the helmet cam on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. You can really get a good look at his setup with the multiple monitors. He's got obviously his keyboard down there. Shifter looks like a button box as well. Gives you a good idea how much customization these drivers have. But he's right now being pinched down by that 6'9" of Colin Bowden as the fight for 16th and 17th rolls on. Inside may win out in the end as he squeeze off into the corner, and Garrett's been able to get clear.
You can see how much just trying to make up that one spot has really stacked him up behind. You can see Colin Bowden right now trying to hold on the inside. Wyatt Tinsley, Alan Bowes, and Michael Cozy Jr. really close in the battle of those front row motorsports cars. And now you see Bobby Zielinski kind of poking that nose out to the right just a little bit to try and get a little bit of clean air. If you want to feel the sensation or find out more about what these drivers are going through and everything going on in eNASCAR, of course, there's a QR code right on the right-hand side of your screen. And, of course, you can get signed up for iRacing. And if you want to, Evan, I wouldn't recommend starting out in the next-gen car at Milwaukee because it's difficult, but you can work your way up to it.
I mean, I have not even an ounce of talent compared to these drivers, but I remember when I started, I struggled with street stocks at Charlotte. So take your time. There's a couple of great cars and tracks that come with that membership, and race your way through the ranks. iRacing does such a good job at replicating a professional ladder through racing. You start with some smaller cars at smaller tracks, and as your experience and skill level improves, you can continue to go up the ladder eventually to maybe race these NASCAR Cup Series cars in official racing, possibly one day compete with these drivers in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. They took that same ladder just like everybody else. Jumping back to 19th spot, that's the number 19, in fact, of Caden Honeycutt now making one spot in the forward direction. He goes up to the number 19 spot on the grid for the 17. He's ahead of a couple of rookies, Wyatt Timsley and Joey Brown, but right here in the midfield, I mean, they are stacked up bumper to bumper, and he seems to be giving it to Jimmy Mullis's back bumper in front. Not a lot of space between those two, as it's a couple of drivers battling hard in the midfield.
Well, and Honeycutt was pretty vocal pre-race about, he said he's going to full send. We talk about tire conservation and how important it's going to be in this race and saving your rear tires. Honeycutt didn't want any of that. He's going to try to go to the front if he can. And of course, we ride along here just behind Joey Brown. This is Colin Bowden, who's lost a couple of spots since the drop of the green flag. But as always, Evan, always reliable. Some college basketball going on right before things get interesting here in a couple of days in March.
I appreciate that it appears that he has moved his either rig around a little bit or just modified the camera solely, I'm going to say, for the purpose of giving us a better view at what's on the TV behind him. And part of me wonders if he keeps one of those ear cups off to have a listen into what's going on behind. But you're right. If he's into the March Madness and making out a bracket, maybe he's doing a little bit of research before he jumps into his pool. But right now, trying to deal with the battle at hand. Somebody else who's fallen back is Matt Busa. Started this race in second. He had that bobble on the initial start up top. He has slid all the way down to P9 right now and left his teammate Nick Ottinger up top to fend for himself.
And I think that shows you the difference. Teammates, we know that they have similar, if not the exact same car underneath them, but just that clean air and just not being able to get a good start. He's likely on the outside having to make up time again and again, trying to get back down to the bottom. Wasn't quite able to do it before slotting down in the 9th position. But back up front, it's not going so easy for Nick Ottinger. Right behind him, Derek Bordeaux got a great start. Cody Bias, that is in the 2nd position, who has not let Ottinger get away quite yet.
He has not let him get away, and in fact, Cody Bias, the instigator in this battle for the race lead, as he is putting the pressure on. Let's bring in the 3rd member of our broadcast team to pit road, with James Pike.
Yeah, I've been keeping an ear in on Cody Bias's radio, and the crew has constantly been reminding him, save your tires, save your tires, save your tires. Their focus is on long-run pace. They're going to try and make sure that Cody's better, maybe 20 or 30 laps on, but they did also say that if you have the opportunity to get Nick Ottinger and control this race from the front and from the lead, go after it and get it. They've been talking about driving lines, noting the differences between Ottinger's and Bias, so a lot of sort of mano-a-mano observations from the crew, just feeding Bias information, but making sure that he stays calm and collected. They like his long run pace right now. They feel like he'll be really, really strong a little bit later.
They're doing their best, Blake, to edge a little bit ahead. A 3rd on the back. Jordy Lopez Jr. in 3rd, the highest running rookie in the field right now behind the wheel of that Coca-Cola Chevrolet P3. But it really is Bias who is pushing the issue here. And again, if his team's cautioning him to not drive it too hard and he's just on the bumper of Ottinger, you got to feel like he's putting pressure on the 25, maybe forcing Ottinger to drive more aggressively than he wants to this early on in this 100-lap race.
Well, we know how well these next-gen cars can get around these types of race tracks with the wider tire patch or contact patch that you have with the racing surface. These cars are built to go around these flat corners very quickly. We know at the short tracks and the road courses, that's the case with this race car. In iRacing, what that creates is obviously a little bit of trouble between how hard you want to push and how hard you want to save those tires, because we know this next-gen car, once you lose it, there's not really a whole lot that's helping you to try and gather it back. And it can be a struggle for those competitors. But of course, if you want more information on everything going on in the eNASCAR world, not just in this series, but in everything going on in the college iRacing series and more, you can log on to iRacing.com/eNASCAR today.
Here's a good look on one of the cars I think you guys touched on during Countdown to Green, and that is that tribute throwback paint scheme, if you will, on Novak's entry to a Wisconsin Motorsports legend, Matt Kenseth. There it is on the right-hand side of the screen. Right now, the number 75 car, P27. It's a good-looking ride on that Chevy Camaro left-hand side, and one of the old-time, I think, iconic paint schemes. Looks like a nice photo from the Rock there on the right-hand side.
Yeah, I was at the Rock, not in 03, but in 04 at the final Cup race there. I was all of, 7 years old, but love seeing this paint scheme, albeit that was a year earlier. Yeah, always great to see a nice little throwback there. And again, I hear that from that Rise Esports group, that's going to be all season long. We're going to see these types of paint schemes.
Yeah, we talked about the special Florida-themed paint that they had in Daytona 2 weeks ago. Certainly excited to see what they continue to do through the course of this year. Mid-pack, it's a bit of a kerfuffle around Colin Bowden there, but a too wide, and somebody's off and into the grass. It's breached out of a red car. It's Cozy.
Yeah, Michael Cozy Jr., a little bit of contact in turn number 1. He saved it and went through the grass, so no caution there, but have to imagine there was a little bit of contact. And boy, I don't know what's going on with that 69 car, but it looks evil, and perhaps even a little bit of damage has befallen Colin Bowden, because something with that car is just not driving right. He is way off the pace.
He is really struggling. Colin Bowden is down 12 positions from where he started. That is the second most spots lost from the start of the race. The only driver who's lost more than him, the aforementioned Michael Cozy Jr., who got, as you saw, knocked off into the grass in turn number 2. He has lost 18 positions from where he started this race, as he's trickled all the way down to the 35 spot. But Bowden going to continue to fight. Maybe a small reprieve here as the battle ends up behind him. It's Kevin King on the outside and Timmy Holmes on the inside of the racetrack. This battle right now for 27th and 28th spot is we are 1/5 of the way through this D-Box 100.
Well, and that car on the outside was the one that I think had a little bit of contact there with Michael Cozy Jr. in Kevin King. But back up front, Evan, it's one thing about this race is how quickly the laps are going to count down. Looking up the ticker, I mean, we're already on lap 21 of this race, 20 completed. It's going by rather quickly.
It has. It's had a good pace. We talked early, we talked about that fuel strategy. How will that play into tire degradation? I think as well, all it takes is for one yellow to screw up a seemingly very orderly race strategy-wise. And not that we haven't had contact, but so far so good. And you can see that top, 10, 11 or so single filed out, trying to gap themselves from the midfield. But the players up here in the top 5, pretty stable at the moment. Still Ottinger, still Bias with a slight edge over Jody Lopez Jr. in 3rd. Dylan Duval, Malik Ray, Mike Conti up there as well. Of course, you see the full leaderboard scrolling through at the top of your screen. But as these drivers have gotten into line in the mid-pack, Blake, still plenty of side-by-side, but not necessarily at the front of the field as they run right now.
No, not at all. And we'll be kind of watching and seeing how this run evolves, because we heard earlier how much tire degradation matters, who's going to be able to save their stuff, and this is usually around that time. If you've been running some NIS races on iRacing, this is kind of the part of the run where if you've lost your tires, kind of like maybe Colin Bowden did a little bit earlier, you're really going to be suffering on those tires. And if you save them, James, well, you might be in a pretty good spot.
Dinner with Colin Bowden for eRacer. And Colin, we've already seen it a little bit through the pack. How crucial is the bottom lane so far in this 25 laps?
Oh, the bottom's real crucial. The 4s wrecked the dog, out of me about 3 times. I'd like to get up there and smack the hell out of them one time for it. My tires are shot right now.
Has this race been more physical than you expected?
That's what I expected. You got a tire that you can't race on and a car that you can't follow behind, so everyone's fighting for the bottom.
How do you manage everything over the course of the run?
Oh, I'm just going to manage everyone going by me here, because that's about the only chance we got. My tires are shot all to hell right now.
Well, Colin, get back to it. Got plenty of racing to do and defense to place. He's got cars to his inside.
And you can see all that chatter bottom right hand of your screen is calling about it in constant communication with the team. And I don't know, something just tells me he's not telling them how beautiful it's driving right now as he continues to slide further back and further back, just now getting overtaken by his e-racer teammate, the 42 machine of Colin Keister. And next on deck to try to take a crack will be the D-Box Chevrolet of Brandon McKissick. Tucked in line behind them, there's the 36 machine trying to make up some spots as McKissick's done a pretty good job of making his way through the field in the opening 26 laps so far.
Yes, he certainly has, and there's been a couple of drivers that we're really starting to see. You either really have a good piece or you really have a bad one. I think Joey Brown's a good example of that. Started in 28th, finds himself in the 18th position. Garrett Main started 21st. He's up to 14th, so there's definitely, we're kind of at that point in the race, Evan, where we're starting to see comers and goers. And I know we mentioned this at the top of the broadcast, how different it is for these drivers to not be able to prepare against each other. One of the hallmarks of the Coke Series is kind of running the Class A Open Series the night before that has often aligned with where the Coke Series is going the next day. Well, guess what? The Cup Series is at Las Vegas, and that's where pretty much all of the top three NASCAR National Series vehicles are in iRacing. It's at Las Vegas. That means these guys didn't get to test against each other, so knowing where these teams are going to be in regards to speed, you're likely not going to see everybody quite as close together as they often are, James.
Yeah, keep an eye on Team Dylan Esports' Jordy Lopez. He said to his crew on the radio that he feels like everybody's been saving. He noted that lap times throughout the first 3 laps of this race have been a lot slower compared to what he ran in practice. And most importantly, he said, and I quote, "I'm going to try and go right around lap 30. That's when I think I need to start making my push." So Lopez has been saving up to now, but he's going to start pushing. So let's watch Jordy Lopez over the next 15 to 20 laps and see what his car does, whether or not he charges to the front or fades. It could be telling, and it could be something that a lot of the other drivers watch in order to determine their strategies for later in the race.
Well, it's a great looking Coca-Cola entry for the Team Dylan Esports camp. It's not going to be hard to miss him as he continues to chase down the leaders. Nick Ottinger continues to lead the way. He has led all 29 laps so far here tonight from Milwaukee in the D-Box 100.
When I hit the wall, this thing shook like crazy. I have experienced that in real life, so I can compare.
I tend to choose rally games that are really putting the actuators through their paces, and they've been holding up really well.
That's exactly how it is in real life. That's the coolest part.
There's a thin line in the NASCAR Xfinity Series between winning and losing, between being the future and being past, between headlines and tailspins, between making history and being it, between the sweet taste of victory and the fumes of defeat. In the NASCAR Xfinity Series, there's a thin line between being a name they know and being a name they'll never forget.
And back live from iRacing's virtual Milwaukee Mile, where coverage of tonight's D-Box 100 is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Logitech. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. by NASCAR. February is Black History Month, and eNASCAR is proud to recognize the accomplishments of past and present icons within the sport. Their contributions of many to the sport should be celebrated as they help fuel NASCAR's past, present, and future. And by D-Box. Make body and racing simulator become one. Improve your virtual race time with D-Box motion technology, providing ultra-precise movements and vibration cues while racing online. We are caution-free through the first 36 laps of tonight's D-Box 100. Your pole sitter Nick Ottinger has led the way, but many other drivers chomping, dare I say, at the bit as we jump on board with that number 7 Malik Ray in P5.
And what a great run this has been for Malik Ray. We know his prowess on super speedways. We know how strong he's been on those types of tracks in the past, but it's just never really been able to get a season going with a bunch of great runs at the beginning, but qualified up front. Obviously has a lot of speed, has made up 4 spots since the drop of the green flag. So Malik Ray definitely came to play here in 2023. We'll see what the strategy is, or if he can kind of cut through Dylan Duval and everybody else up front. But I tell you what, Malik Ray, very impressed with this run right here.
And the chomping, of course, a reference to the Belching Beaver Brewery on that number 7 Ford Mustang, as he's up 4 spots from the get-go in this one. But we're seeing much more space up front than we did even when we stepped aside 5 to 10 laps ago. That 27 bias no longer on the back bumper to Nick Ottinger. In fact, he's slotted back to Jordy Lopez Jr. That would jive with James's report that Jordy was waiting until about lap 30 to start put the pressure on the guys in front of him.
Well, these drivers know when they go and they test kind of what or when they want to start pushing their car. And obviously the thought has been that you can ride around a little bit, at least with Jordy Lopez's team, and try to make up some ground. But I tell you what, Cody Bias is not going to be easy to pass here. These cars, the further up the field you go, it is harder and harder to get by. And Bias, who looked to kind of lose a little bit of ground to Nick Ottinger, has kind of stabilized back with him these last couple of laps. So Bias definitely not going to go away anytime soon or make that pass easy on the rookie and Jordy Lopez.
No intent to at all. He is the highest running rookie by a wide margin. Next one, you're going to find Joey Brown down in 15th spot. So great showing here for Jordy Lopez Jr. We talked about it last week. Maybe a bit of a gamble by Austin Dillon and Team Dillon Esports to take 2 rookies for their driver class this year with Jordy and then Tucker Minter. But it has been so far so good, and I think 2 really good pickups for them. Tucker's got a little bit of ways to go in 27th, but he is up 9 from a poor qualifying effort for his expectations, so maybe still more to come there. But clearly the race car good in race trim.
It certainly is. And you know, the one thing with Tucker Minter, and I made this a point in the broadcast last week, that yes, he got his career started off with a win. Oh, a little bump right there with Timmy Holmes into turn number 3. But the one thing is that he is not locked into the postseason, Evan. We have seen time and time again that drivers can fall out of the top 20. Not only that, but they have to win perhaps a second time because we get so many winners in this series. So nothing is guaranteed. And look at Daytona, where that car was unsponsored. How about the fact that that is a fully painted livery right there with Global Industrial jumping on board with Tucker Minter?
Yeah, well deserved. It was 2 weeks ago at the Daytona International Speedway where we kicked off this 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And as always, it was in dramatic fashion. Different cars had opportunities to lead and even dominate portions of the race. But as it whittled down towards the end, a couple of drivers came into focus, and some late race wrecks and near wrecks gave us an opportunity to go racing and take that race all the way to the end. And it was a thrilling finish. The aforementioned Tucker Minter with an unsponsored car takes the win. Fully wrapped here tonight at Milwaukee as we have our first caution flag of the night. And it sounds like it may have been Colin Bowden.
Bowden, who was so loose, it looked like he and Michael Cozy Jr. back in 1 and 2. Bowden had fallen all the way back to 33rd. And I think not only was that car loose, I'm just not sure. Cozy was underneath him, kind of along the rumble strips here at the bottom of turns 1 and 2. A little bit of contact there. Bowden goes around, nobody damaged, but this kind of shakes up this race, 7, because we could have gone nearly 80 to 85 laps is what I heard from some of these drivers earlier on fuel, but this is going to kind of be the money stop already at this part of the race.
It's just shy of halfway home, and you talk about the unique pit road here at the Milwaukee Mile. They're going to kind of have to serpentine to the left to make that sidestep onto pit road. It is a very slow 45 miles an hour, and when they're all stacked up like this, you can't afford any sort of mistakes. The popular decision likely going to be tire service and fuel all around. And as they get their service, let's take a look at what happened with Colin Bowden. You talked about maybe Cozy was on the inside, and it looks like the 38 might have gone up a little bit, but certainly Colin Bowden wasn't doing it himself, and he favors their squeeze and Conti. And there's so little banking here at Milwaukee that these race cars are going to want to push as they get into the corner, and just that slightest bit was enough. Let's take a look from behind it.
Yeah, there's really not a whole lot to help you correct it. I mean, there's not a whole lot in these next-gen cars anyway, but with only 5 degrees of banking, you're definitely having to rely on very little to try to save your race car. And yeah, I think that's just a move. Bowden was trying to get down to the bottom. Cozy was there. Not sure if there's anything else Cozy could have really done to try and avoid that. But at the end of the day, nobody really is any worse for the wear out of it. I mean, Bowden spins. He needed a new set of tires anyway, Evan, so I don't think he'll mind that all too much.
At a tough break, I talk about not making mistakes. I was more so referring to not being, deep into the box or shy into the box, but completely missing the pit box. That trip down pit road, I believe, was Caden Honeycutt. So he's going to have to come back in, re-go that service. And Caden Honeycutt, who had started this race at 18th position and who was running in about the number 25 spot when the yellow came out, is going to go all the way to the rear, because he missed his stall the first time through and had to come in this time for service. Lights already out on top of the pace car. Nick Ottinger maintains the top position. It's going to be Cody Bias to his outside, with Jordy Lopez Jr., Dylan Duval, and Malik Gray in the top 5. It'll be a restart with 54 laps to go in the D-Box 100 as we take you iRacing full throttle.
Caution is out yet again.
Very, very quick caution off of that restart. Really no indications towards the front of the field that there's going to be any issues, but I think deeper back, what we saw in the initial start of this race is what struck here. There was a lot of checking up back on the green flag some 47 laps ago, and I think we saw it again this time, Blake, just much further down that line, and I think that at least played some factor in Holmes going into the wall. He's the only one who gets damage out of that, so we'll wait to see the replay to find out what happened, but certainly looked like back there they started to check things up. Let's see what happened to Holmes. You're looking for the 6 car.
But you can see he's kind of trying to anticipate the restart, which again, big issue at Auto Club in the NASCAR Cup Series this season. And I think you could see right there kind of contact with Tyler Gary as Gary was looking to try to make it 3 wide on him. And unfortunately, again, these cars will snap on you in an instant. So Holmes quickly overcorrects it, gets in the outside wall, and will have a lot of nose damage on that number 6 machine.
Tough break for him. That's going to force his entry down to pit road for repairs. He's actually right now the only driver off of the lead lap. All 38 other cars who started this race scored on the lead lap. Yellows as well. Going to help a little bit for the fuel mileage, for the tire deg. But it almost feels like once you get this first one, Blake, there's a chance that you might not see another, 40 some odd lap sprint in this one. And if you get a lot of on-off yellows and short runs, then it really opens up pit road for strategy We haven't seen a ton of that tonight because the only calls to this point have been so universal. Of course, we talk about this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, but there's so much more happening in the world of eNASCAR, including the eNASCAR College iRacing series. They are back in action March 21st from Michigan International Speedway to see some of the top collegiate level iRacing drivers competing for scholarship money. That one coming up in about a month's time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series cars.
It's always fun seeing these drivers, some of which are competing at this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series level, and some who are looking to make their way further up the ladder. But you can see how much these races mean, Evan, because they have more on the line financially than some of these Coke races, because there's just so much scholarship money on the line, $15,000 every single time we come out. So those are pretty intense races when that much is on the line for these drivers.
Money always makes you sit up straight and put your elbows out. This time for the restart, we'll jump on board with your P10 runner, Matt Busa. It's the Logitech G onboard camera. It's a restart with 50 laps down, 50 laps to go. Caution flag this time for the one of Derek Bourdeau, and he is not happy as he gives a whale of a shot to the 12 of Garrett Maines. I know it's over a mile, Blake, but short track, short tempers, something had to have happened between those two.
I would love to see a replay of exactly what happened, because I just saw out of the corner of my eye, I believe it was Bourdeau who made contact with the inside retaining wall, the pit road wall there. Parker White was also involved in that as well. I think he hit the outside retaining wall. But yes, I think even after that caution had come out, definitely a little bit of beef right there. We'll take a look at it one more time. Bourdeau trying to anticipate the start. Maines is going to get a run, and well, I mean, in Maines' defense, kind of just got run down to the inside wall. We'll stay here because after this, you're going to see that everybody else is checking up. The yellow flag is out, and Bourdeau has not lifted. Oh, no, and he took out a Williams Esports car. They are certainly not going to like that. That's the 55 of Vicente Salas.
I mean, certainly one thing to be upset, Blake, with the contact that goes down into turn number one. Far from the first time we've seen somebody run into somebody's bumper to voice their displeasure, but in the process, 110% completely wrecked the Duracell Chevrolet of Vicente Salas, who had absolutely nothing to do with that accident. Let's see what Vicente sees in all this. Again, yellow is already out, and here comes the one, just cleans out a completely innocent car.
That's one thing. I mean, everybody knows that at times tempers flare. You always want to try to get back sometimes at those you think did you wrong. But not only did Garrett Maines, I think he had established position going in there, but recklessly driving back and obviously taking out another competitor who had nothing to do with it. Again, I know the iRacing officials who watch these races, they are not going to take kindly to that, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bourdeau maybe has an answer and perhaps missing the next race potentially.
That is not what you are hoping to see, and let's get a word now with Derek Bourdeau.
Derek, we'll get your perspective on it. What happened there on that restart and afterwards?
I don't know. Dumb moves being made, and after that, I feel so bad for wrecking Vicente under that. That's not what I wanted to do at all. I don't know. It's just stupid from everyone's part, mainly me.
All right, you're still sitting here in 16th. I would say the car may not be too damaged. Does it feel okay to you, or you think you may still be able to have a shot to get a top 10?
No, shot's destroyed. The car is, I don't know, it's looking fine, but left front crinkled, so I don't know how it's gonna go. Probably gonna be very bad. We'll see.
All right,
I want to apologize again to Vicente.
All right, Derek, thank you for the time.
Yep.
Well, obviously not what he wanted to accomplish, but obviously letting the emotions get the better of him. Enough drivers will debate, should he even give a shot to somebody under the yellow as is. But again, not much reconciliation there for Vicente Salas, who is now a lap down in 38th position after he started in 12th. That again had nothing to do with the contact in the run down to turn number 1. We'll try it again, though. 2 quick yellows back to back here. The song and dance is the same. Nick Ottinger in control. However, Jordi Lopez Jr. moves up to the number 2 spot. The number 3 Coca-Cola Chevrolet on the outside of the front row. Pace cars gone. Green flag back in the air. Look at all those cars trying to look to the inside, almost 3 wide up front, but Lopez able to seal off Malik Ray there as the top 3 get single file. They're going to fight for 4th behind as here comes Michael Conti trying to get to the outside of Dylan Duval.
Quietly been one of the quicker cars out here. Is Malik Ray. You can see a little bit of smoke up the road. That is Jimmy Molis as we ride atop from Kevin King. A slide out of Molis, who I think may have had a little bit of contact there with, I think it was Joey Brown as they were racing down the front straightaway. They kind of went after it a couple of times, but nevertheless, Molis saves it. May have gotten a little bit of damage and may have even had a little bit of help with a couple of other drivers, Dylan Alt and perhaps Derek Bordeaux.
Yeah, something happened, and Joey Brown said over the radio, I was loose through the whole corner, so I wonder if he just got loose and hit the fence or slid into somebody. We'll have to wait to see the tape, but it happened just outside of the top 10, and obviously snowballed to collect a couple of other cars. The one machine got a big chunk of that one. Derek Bordeaux is the one who we saw go sliding to the outside wall, and let's rewind the tape and take a look at the D-Box replay here. And yeah, 14 was loose off of 4, and then the 46 car was there, and yeah, just all accordion as he got punted off to 1.
Yeah, I think Brown a little bit loose, also wanting to protect that inside line a little bit. Now that we've gotten some laps under our belt, and I mean, these tires are still cold, these cars are very sketchy, and Brown trying to protect the track position he's made up. He started 28th, he's all the way up to 14th. You can see Molis kind of gets the worst end of it, but Brown hangs on. Unfortunately, Molis for Rise Esports not able to do so.
Unable to, and again, after some 40-some-odd laps of green flag racing, now 3 yellow flags back to back to back, and I will claim no responsibility, certainly not the commentator's curse, if just saying the obvious that you're going to get 1 yellow, you're going to get them all stacked up. But I've caused many over the years. These are not them. This is, a short track. It's a flat racetrack. This is to be expected. And the issue is you get to 42 laps to go. You can't say, oh, we've had 3 cautions in a row now. Let's back it down and take it a little bit easier. No, these yellows are taking valuable green flag laps away from drivers trying to progress, Blake, so they're only going to continue to get more aggressive on these restarts. And we've seen that with guys trying to undercut people the second they get to the start-finish line.
Well, and it's the product of, everybody knows at the end of these races how important track position is, and you can make these moves, and you have to make them up on these restarts. We hear guys both in the virtual world and in real world talk about it. You got to make up spots when you have the opportunity to do so. And on these restarts, if you can get a good launch, you can send it in 3 wide and make up 3, 4, 5 spots all at once. And of course, you can look at our picks right here. And, Camille had a rough week last week, but I think right now, is sitting right at the top of it right there with Steven Wilson, which, by the way, Joey Brown, right to his outside.
They're going to be right alongside one another as they're going to get lined up side by side. They're kind of in the hornet's nest, not where really I'd want to be, a couple of rows back where drivers have been awfully aggressive and I will say assertive with their moves. Have not seen a lot of give on the last couple. And again, I don't know, Blake, is it Is it an issue because at a flat track like this, it's difficult to make passes that you have to be this aggressive immediately on the restart to get to somebody's inside? And just seems like, again, even if you're blocking somebody down to the wall, I mean, they are all over each other trying to make a pass as quick as humanly possible. We obviously didn't really see that on the initial start, but that was 60 some odd laps ago.
Certainly so. I think that again, restarts, you have to make up the spots when you can, and that plays such a big part of it.
Of course, there's far more than just the asphalt world out there to enjoy. The World of Outlaws dirt racing game is available now for Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and of course the PS4 and the PS5. You can learn more, including how you can get yourself a copy at worldofoutlaws.game.com. So enjoy the asphalt action here on the service. Plenty of dirt racing over here as well. And get yourself the World of Outlaws game and enjoy what it's like to drive some of the most incredible race cars on the planet. 39 laps left on the scoring to pylon this time by. Let's take the perspective of Dylan Alt in P16. Green flag back in the air. And up front, the battle for the race lead. Here comes Malik Ray. Caution comes out behind as the 7 was in front at the moment of yellow. It is an incident involving Jimmy Mullis, but the timing of the yellow means that Malik Ray, I believe, is your new race leader.
And he did it with the bump and run on Nick Ottinger, who blocked him all the way down to the inside. And I think it was contact with Joey Brown that brought out the yellow flag as he went down to protect. And we see the end of the pit wall. We talked about it on the last restart with Derek Bordeaux causing an issue, but Joey Brown gets the worst end of this one.
Gets the worst end of this one, and it sends us under the yellow flag with less than 40 laps to go. But we have a new race leader. Malik Ray takes control of the D-Box 100. When we come back, less than 40 to go from the Milwaukee Mile.
Much has changed over our 75 years, but the thing that never does, the anticipation, the holding of breath until that first green flag drops and the crazy journey begins all over again. If you could travel 75 years from now, you might not recognize much at all. But one thing will never change. That feeling you get when the race begins again.
Coverage of tonight's race brought to you by our friends at Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Logitech. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And by NASCAR. February is Black History Month, and eNASCAR is proud to recognize the accomplishments of past and present icons within the sport. The contributions of many to the sport should be celebrated as they help fuel NASCAR's past, present, and future. We take a second look at the most recent incident that has us under the yellow flag in tonight's D-Box 100 involving the 46 Sudoku entry off into one.
You can see Jimmy Molis, kind of some collateral damage in that one. It kind of started a little bit further up the road. But Molis spins out, is able to collect it. He's been a part of a couple of incidents tonight, but aside from just a little bit of damage, I mean, his car is not that badly hurt, I would say. He's still on pit road making repairs, but we'll leave it now to try to beat the pace car. But I think the biggest story, Evan, is that over the course of that run, Malik Ray takes the lead from Nick Ottinger.
Yeah, the timing of this incident was everything. As you see another look, there's Brown to the bottom, car low, 42's there, squeezed into the pit road wall. Not the first time we have seen a similar incident, and as that happened behind, we were watching the move up front as Malik Ray put the bumper to the number 25 machine of Nick Ottinger that went to the inside of the racetrack to try to make the pass. And again, when the yellow came out, the 7 had a slight nose in front. That is how the race leader is determined when a yellow flag comes out here on the service, and therefore Malik Ray assumes the number 1 spot. Nick Ottinger had, until that point, led nearly every single lap consecutively through 61 laps, but now the 7's got an opportunity to make some noise. It is going to force the 25 of Ottinger to the outside. The bottom has been the better place to restart tonight. The outside has dealt with quite a lot of checkups. Ottinger plastered on the door of the 7 Ford Mustang. Conti as well, all over race leader Malik Ray. Green flag in the air, 33 laps to go. And it was a touch from Dylan Duval into Michael Conti. They are not done yet. 3 wide in turn 2.
Lopez gets the worst into that. Conti held onto it, but obviously wasn't all that pleased. And oh, by the way, haven't mentioned him a lot tonight. Casey Kerwin running up here, trying to snatch the 3rd spot away from Michael Conti.
He comes from out of nowhere despite starting in P6. You're right, we haven't talked much about Casey Kerwin, but the 2022 eNASCAR iRacing champion is putting it to the 2014 champ. Michael Conti, in his final season of competition, is holding off right now and successfully defends P3.
These 2 right here, you can see the amount of ground they've lost to the 2 that are further up the road. And now what's Nick Ottinger's car going to do now that he's in a little bit of dirty air, that Malik Ray is controlling everything? You can see these 2 battle for 3rd. Conti, you know, a little bit of a smirk right there, I'd say. He's focused, but probably a little more relaxed than I would imagine. And of course, Casey, you could see a little bit of communication going on that you can watch either here or, of course, his Twitch stream, where you get to interact and see everything from his vantage point as well. And caution is out.
It's going to be, again, well behind the leaders. The 51 of Donovan Strauss is involved in this one. So not that long ago, we saw the issues with his teammate Vicente Salas, and now it is the 2nd of the Williams Esports entries. This time, Donovan Strauss involved in the accident, and Zach Novak using the open radio channel to apologize. So I don't know if Novak was near that incident or if it's unrelated, but Strauss went around. Novak says he's sorry. We'll wait to take a second look, but it happened down in 3 and 4.
See if we can't get one more look at it. Malik Ray running up front right now, but oh man, this is going to be the separation and tire strategy. And well, they faked me out, Evan. I was just thinking that everybody was going to come down and pit, which would kind of be around the time you'd want to do it if you're up front. But I thought Malik Ray was just about to get hung out to dry by everybody in the field.
Yeah, we will eventually see some takers, but they're way down in the 20s. Guest, Keister, Doucette, Leahy, Lowe, and Strauss all down in the pit lane, but not amongst the leaders. And let's take a second look here. That move to the bottom, maybe a bit of a half block from the 38 of Cozy, and maybe another touch in there as well. But again, you got guys slicing and dicing. The straightaways here at the Milwaukee Mile are not that long, and here's his perspective from behind. As you can see, a bit of a twitch there. I mean, that gap closed up quick, but he certainly had the car on the bottom.
He had the car on the bottom, and it was contacted a little bit with Cozy and Colin Bowden. I think Cozy was looking for the middle there. Bowden kind of cuts down and is looking to take a different line. They don't agree with it, and I would say, yeah, Strauss just kind of an innocent victim right there. Not much he could have done.
all in all, it looks like the number of cars who pit less than 10. So most of the field will stay out on now 28 lap old tires, 28 laps to go in this race. So I'm with you. I wouldn't have been shocked if they had come down and kind of split the difference here. We expect some type of strategy to be a factor when you get all these yellows like this. Again, everybody was on the same page. We didn't get a yellow until 40 some odd laps into the race. Everybody came down together, took fuel, took 4 tires. Since then, we've started to see a couple of cars trickle off, but the race leaders continue to stay out. As let's see what McKissick's perspective of this was. He was well behind where the contact happens, spins in front of him, and just squeezes by. The D-Box 36 lives to tell the tale of another turn as he was able to avoid that accident and should be seeing the lights go out on top of the pace car this time by.
Nice little miss right there from McKissick, but you have to remember, Evan, this isn't exactly when you talk about the amount of life we've had on these tires. They have not all been green flag laps. Now, we did see about a second of fall off earlier over the course of that first run. It was about 40 laps, and the race leaders fell off about a second. So there is a little bit of tire degradation, but the name of the game here time and time again has been track position, and these leaders are willing to do anything it takes to keep it.
The road to $300,000 is a long one, and for more information on the schedule, the standings, and even information on how you could one day qualify in to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, log on to iRacing.com/eNASCAR today and join us as we race all the way to that Homestead finale in September. And more broadly, for more information on how to start your sim racing career today, go to iRacing.com for more information. This time, we will have 26 laps left to go on the board. I think the question really is, how long of a short run will this one be? Malik Ray to the inside of Nick Ottinger, Kerwin, Conti, Maines, your top 5. They wait for the restart zone. The 7's in control. He holds and waits and gets a great jump to turn 1.
He's able to get away a little bit, but further back, we see 2 by 2 by 3, almost with Nick Ottinger up there for third. How quickly can these drivers sort it out? Because you don't want to be battling each other and allowing Ray to get away, as we see a big block here from Lopez all the way down to the grass on the back straightaway.
Using every single inch of this racetrack as the top 2, maybe 3 or 4 single file themselves out, and here comes a dive to the inside. Look out for Duval. He will force his way through, but he'll get touched by Garrett Maines. Duval into the outside wall in turn 2, and now the 97 car spins in front of the field. Caution flag is out. It is a mess in turn 2.
All these drivers are fighting for their life. That's exactly what Casey Kerwin just said. As Duval put a sin down to the bottom, Kerwin, I think, crossed over and may have made some contact with Jordy Lopez Jr. And then everybody stacks up, and a couple of drivers who really had nothing to do with the beginning of all of that in the middle of 1 and 2 wreck off at 2, trying to check up and just avoid all the calamity that was going on.
It just really continued to snowball, and we saw it all unfold live as Dylan Duval made that aggressive 3-wide move. It was to get to the inside of both Casey Kerwin, who was up top, and then that 3 of Jordy Lopez Jr., who was in the middle. We saw them get together, and then the touch that came from the 12 of Garrett Maines, I thought that was going to be the end of it. And then as we watch all of that unfold, look for the 97 Logitech Chevy a couple of rows back, right? They're all bouncing off each other. People start the checkup, and then the 40 gets into him, and then he'll get into the 27. And at that point, you got 2 cars hooked in front of the field, and it's a parking lot.
My goodness, how did Wyatt Tinsley drive through that? He was right in the middle, right in the thick of things. He gets through. We'll see another vantage point here from Michael Cozy Jr. He's a little bit behind. You could see the smoke start to develop a little bit. And I think he's going to have a nice miss here. He checks up a little bit, finds a gap, and is just able to drive right by it.
Certainly A lot of skill in that one. A little bit of luck never hurt as well. As you mentioned, he saw the smoke. You could hear him lift off of the throttle. Tried to coast. It's careful because you got to make sure to not hit the car in front of you, but also not get run over from the car behind you. Through all of this late race chaos, again, is that move to the race lead by the 7 of Malik Ray. Blake, you're dialed in with him.
All right, Malik, you're sitting up front here, 23 laps to go. A lot of chaos going on behind you. What's kind of going through your mind right now as we continue to count the laps down?
I'm just trying to just do the best with what I got. I know they're pushing me on the restart zones, but I don't blame them. Like, they're just trying to get everything they can get. But hopefully I can hang on for the last 22 laps.
All right, I'm just hearing that we may be going to single file restarts. How much do you think that helps or hurts you here down the stretch?
Hurts me a lot because I feel like I'm going to get punted. So I wish that they would change that, but I'm not in the admin room, so it is what it is.
All right, Malik, we'll let you get back to it, and hopefully we'll be talking to you here in 22 laps.
All right, thank you, man.
I was just going to make sure to not say it while he was on the radio, Blake, to jinx anything, but Malik Ray in his 5th season of eNASCAR competition in search of career race win number 1.
He is, and you would have thought, again, we know time and time again, if you've been on the iRacing surface, you know that Malik Ray is one of the best out there. He's won just about as much, I think, all time out of anybody who's ever competed on iRacing. When you think all the way back to 2009 and when this service was offered, there's hardly been a driver who has won more oval official races than Malik Ray. Been at the top step of the ladder for a long time, but has never been able to break through. And I don't know, he seems to not be so optimistic about the single file restarts. I kind of like it. You're not going to be able to see when he's launching with these single file restarts. So I think it's a little bit of an advantage if you're this number 7 car.
And drivers back in traffic, not a fan of it either because it makes their moves more difficult as Graham Bolin has quietly snuck back into the conversation. He's somebody else who started top 10, but admittedly we have not talked much about, but his Charlotte Phoenix Toyota in P7. Again, that literally means row 7 as we go to the single file restart. Blake, and you reference when you're lined up behind somebody, you're not going to be able to see when they get that jump, as opposed to when they're side by side, you'll see somebody pinch down to see it. Let's see how much of an effect that has as they go up against the outside wall for a restart with 20 laps to go on Malik Ray's cue. Slow again, he'll stack them up, but it is not a great start. He'll dive to the inside to block, but here comes Michael Conti to the race lead in 1 and 2.
Oh, Ray was hoping to stack up the field in anticipation, and instead it allowed Conti to get a great launch, and he lost the lead. Here he also missed a shift on that restart.
So he mentioned he wasn't a big fan of it, and a mistake on the restart will put Michael Conti to the race lead for the first time tonight with 81 laps down and 19 to go. What was the battle for the race lead, now the fight for second as Malik Ray tries to hold off Ottinger. And you remember, Ottinger got a bump from Malik last time. Something tells me the 25 not going to be afraid to pay it back as you see the 95 and the 18 car side by side for 6th.
Casey Kerwin down on the bottom. Zielinski gonna try to hold him up top, and you can see really kind of a contrast here with these single file restarts. Everybody in line already. It's going to make it a little bit tougher if you're further back in the field. Obviously, more rows means you have more distance between you and the race leader, so everybody kind of sorting themselves out quickly, but we'll try to make up for that in as quick a time as they can. And boy, is Michael Conti driving away from Malik Ray.
Let's listen in to the restart with the 7 of Malik Ray. Blake, and talk us through it.
You can hear it right there. I wanted to bow out so you could hear the missed shift. So he didn't miss it on the restart. He's missing it down into turn 1, and with just how these cars drive, the engine braking that you naturally get, that is a big part of how you drive these race cars. And just a mistake, I think, that, you know, Malik Ray's done millions of times here on the iRacing service, James. When you have your first eNASCAR win right in front of you, that's a mistake that I guess you can make sometimes.
It was an unfortunate break for Malik Ray, but a big break for Michael Conti. And just before we went back to Green Flag Racing, Conti and his team got together and they discussed. And Michael very emphatically said over and over, he said, guys, my pace is on the short run. If I get space, I have to go now, now, now. So Conti is full bore here in the final 16 laps to try and build as much of a gap as he can to maintain the race lead and go to victory lane.
And that's obvious for Michael Conti, the 13-time race winner, the 2014 series champion, has checked out to a 1-second advantage over Nick Ottinger, who has passed Malik Ray now for second and third on track. It's the biggest advantage we've seen from anybody all night long.
And we talk about saving. Well, guess what? You're not saving at all. And Michael Conti using that clean air to his advantage. And listening into Conti, he's not even shifting up to fifth gear. He is just riding around in fourth gear, using that engine braking that's so good on these cars on the iRacing service, and just putting it to full use as he's clear of Ottinger. He has clean air. And again, with single file restarts, that's kind of one of the things that changes is everybody's kind of settled out a little bit quickly. So you're not having to worry about cautions perhaps in the way that you once would.
Yeah, it obviously had the intended effect of when we were side by side, we couldn't get more than 5 laps in without the yellow. We've been able to get green flag underneath us, Blake, but a lot of drivers weren't happy about needing to go single file as we see the 17 and the 38 go side by side. Why would there be frustration for the drivers in the midfield?
Well, if you're Matt Busa, I know he pit and took tires, and if you take tires and all of a sudden the gap to the leader has almost doubled because of single file restarts, yeah, I think you can understand that frustration. Now, they were warned 2 cautions ago that we could be going to single file restart, so the drivers had a little bit of heads up on the potential of it. It's within the rules that they can enact single file restarts if they want to, and they elected to make the decision, and I think you said it best. It is having the desired effect. We've gotten some green flag laps back under our belt here as we look at the battle for 18th between Caden Honeycutt and Michael Cozy Jr.
It's a good perspective on board the Micro Center Toyota of Parker White driving for Tony Kadan. I'll give a shout out to that airplane diecast as well in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Parker's on a bit of a pseudo strategy. He's on 36 lap old tires. Those are 8 laps newer than all the cars in front of him, but those are not the freshest of tires. The freshest of tires are only 18 laps old. That's guys like Keister, Guest, the aforementioned Matt Busa, who had pitted on that yellow flag, and we saw the drivers towards the rear come in. But anybody on tires newer than the leaders, no higher than Caden Honeycutt is right now in the number 19 position. So not making headway like they would have hoped. And again, single file restart may have some effect on that.
It may have, but I think we just didn't have enough green flag laps. But this may change everything here, though. One car spinning down to the inside. Ooh. That is Vicente Salas. Not the first time he's gone around on the back straightaway tonight. And, well, that huge lead that Michael Conti was just sporting, well, guess what? That all gets thrown out the window.
That big advantage that he had is evaporated, and now maybe another decision on if anybody else wants to try for tires, but so few laps led in this race. I think we're going to be looking at some restarts with cars on worn out tires, trying to make it hang on as Michael Conti in search of his 14th career series win. He already sits alone 4th on the all-time wins list with 13, bested only by Ryan Luza's 17, Nick Ottinger's 19, and Ray Alfala's 27 career race wins. And as you mentioned, Vicente was involved in that controversial yellow flag incident earlier in the race when he got taken out at no fault of his own. This one was in battle for position as he was scored last time before the caution came out of the stripe in 27th spot. But of course, a wreck in the midfield or at the back has big consequences on the battle for this race win, because it gives another opportunity here for Nick Ottinger, remember, who was so dominant through the first, I'd say 2/3 of this race.
He really was, and Conti remembered this is his last season in eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series competition. He said he wanted to make it great with the number 8, no pun intended, and, well, there's 8 laps to go, and number 8 is up front. Why don't we ring him up real quick? Michael Conti, you're up here with 8 laps to go. How are we feeling behind the wheel of that WR1 Sim Chassis Chevrolet?
Man, this is kind of crazy. I can't believe we're here. The car is stupid good. We were just stuck all night. So I'm happy to be here. I really hate to see that caution, but we've got such a good car. We've got control. If the driver does what he's supposed to do, this is going to be really good for us. So just a few more laps, and as long as I don't step on it, we should be good. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, speaking of stepping on it, I know you have a little bit of options here, single file restarts. You have a long ways around. Milwaukee Mile is so wide. What's kind of the approach you're thinking here of this next restart, perhaps without saying too much?
I mean, you know how this goes, man. You're gonna have to stay tuned to find that out. But I mean, I think there's definitely a better way to go about this, and I'm gonna do that, and hopefully that is better. And we'll see if we can get this WR1 car in victory lane. This is honestly amazing. I love flat tracks. I love racing these things. So to just be in this position with 5 to go, couldn't ask for anything else. So I'm going to try to keep calm here, keep focused, and bring this one home.
All right, Michael, go get after it.
Thanks, buddy.
Looking for the lights to go out this time by. Let's take a look back at what happened to put us under this most recent yellow.
It's going to be in the middle of turns 1 and 2. This is from Strauss's vantage point, so we're going to be looking for the other Williams Esports entry that's up the road, and my goodness, a vicious turn into the outside wall, and well, a day goes from bad to worse for Vicente Salas, who's now sitting on pit road. I think that damage is going to put him out of this one, Evan, but a tough night there for Vicente.
Yeah, that car got off the ground a little bit, and the cars behind got under him, and he ended up in the fence down the back straightaway. So a huge incident for Vicente. Again, almost the same spot on track after he got knocked into the wall under the yellow flag a little bit ago. Pace car going to be in this time. Will it be for the final time? There will be 5 laps to go. Conti trying to hold off Nick Ottinger. Malik Ray in third, still in the hunt for his first career win. Pace car makes the late dive. What does Conti do in the restart zone? He goes early. It's a good jump for the 8 car to turn 1.
And he's going to have a couple of car links on Nick Ottinger, but Ottinger puts together a pretty good 1 and 2 himself, not letting him get too far away, about a car length and a half. It's enough to work with, but remember, these two are pretty friendly with each other. I'd be shocked if you saw them put the bumper to each other like we have with our 2 Coca-Cola cars.
Yeah, it's Coke on Coke right now between the 40 and the 3 car as they continue to fight aggressively for position. The benefit that time goes in favor of the 40 at Dylan Alt. The 41 at Dylan Duval also going to slide into front. So Jordi Lopez Jr. has to settle for the number 11 spot on track right now. The 95 at Casey Kerwin's in P6. He goes for a big block to the inside, trying to hold off the VRS Toyota of Bobby Zelensky, who's going to have to tuck back in line and reset with 3 laps to go. Here comes Ottinger.
I think Ottinger's got better tires. Conti drove away in clean air. Ottinger was sitting back saving. He's going to have to cut through the dirty air a little bit, but you can see Ottinger, center of the corner, has a little bit better drive right now than Michael Conti.
2 of the very best drivers all time in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series gonna put on a battle at the Milwaukee Mile. Conti's got it, Ottinger wants it, and it's really a wash on the gains that time by. The gap is still 2 car lengths with 2 laps to go.
And again, Ottinger just has to stay close. He can have his shot if he wants it into turn number 3. We know these two very friendly with one another. They've known each other for a long time. Conti, though, able to get a little bit of a better exit off of turn 2. But Ottinger, you can see how deep he's driving in, trying to make up any ground he can on Michael Conti.
He really drove it in, but it washed out on the entry, and Conti's lead will grow. White flag in the air one more time from Milwaukee. Michael Conti in his final season, arguably in his most competitive form ever. If he can win this, he'll get a win in 4 straight seasons for the first time in his career. Ottinger tries, but there's nothing left, and Michael Conti gonna come at a turn number 4. Career win number 14 comes at the Milwaukee Mile. 3 wide behind, 1 car into the inside wall. Wild finish in the midfield.
And for Michael Conti, you can see that you can win as much as almost anybody has in series history, but that winning feeling never gets old, and he's been used to doing it early in these seasons. Evan, you talk about the success he's had and how that shapes the rest of your season. He's been able to do it within the first handful of races each of the last 2 seasons, and boy, how that changes the rest of your year to be able to have that notch already in your belt.
When I say that battle between he and Ottinger was amongst 2 of the very best of all time, we meant it. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. Conti and Ottinger, respectively, 3rd and 4th on the all-time starts list, and then 4th and 2nd on the all-time wins list. But the driver of the 8 car has still got it. Let's take a look at the Coca-Cola move of the race, and it was that great restart by the 8, even with maybe not as good as tires as what was on that 25 behind him. The jump gave him enough of a buffer.
It did, and again, he had a large restart zone here at Milwaukee. Once that pace car dives down, he can pretty much go anywhere he wants to, so elected to go a little bit later, but was still in the right spot at the right time. And from there, it's just taking advantage of that track position, getting that clean air, forcing Nick Ottinger to try to make a mistake or make a move. But Conti was rock solid those last couple of laps, and goes to show you why he's been able to win so many races. Didn't quite have the track position, started back in 10th, but just slowly but surely, methodically worked his way forward like the veteran that we know that he is.
And we saw the 25 get really close, but as it got to the waning laps, this was probably the best opportunity he had. I think this was coming to 2 laps to go. He was set up about a car length off, but when he wasn't able to make any ground at this end of the racetrack in 1 and 2, we were on board with him, Blake, and as you said, he drove it in hard trying to get to the bumper, but it just opened up the gap by too much, and he was never able to close back in. Michael Conti is your race winner tonight for the Milwaukee Mile in the D-Box 100. Blake is with him now.
Michael Conti, race winner already here in 2023 in your final campaign in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. I see a lot of relief, but is that really what you're feeling here after race 2, ending in victory lane?
Oh my God. I mean, I can't believe it. It gets harder and harder to be good in this series as you get older. Maybe that sounds stupid, but you've got more responsibilities. You've got things going on outside the sim. It's so hard to concentrate and focus enough on this to run up front. And man, the preparation going into this was second to none. My guys, my Team Conti guys, the help they gave this week was amazing. And everything was scienced out. You know, at the end there with all those cautions, we had a plan for that. You know, the final restart, we knew what we were doing. And man, it's really cool to do this. Dustin Hall, my crew chief, he's had a lot of loss in the last 6 months. Jimmy, his grandmother, just passed away a couple days ago. Obviously, I race for my mom. Every race out here, she was my biggest supporter. So with this being my final year, with not knowing if and when the next one will come, this is just super cool to do it at this track, at a flat track where I got my first win. Awesome for everybody. WR1 Junior Motorsports, Dale, Kelly, everybody there. Thank you so much for letting me drive this thing. It's been a dream come true, and we're in the playoffs as long as I don't step on it the rest of the year. So super excited about that too.
Well, I was about to say, obviously you never know when the next one is coming, but that serves true with an opportunity at a championship. So looking forward, what's kind of the approach? Because you've done this so many times where you've won early in the season, and yet we're always seeing you in playoff contention right around making the championship 4.
Yeah, I think it's like in real life too, where they talk about peaking at the right time. And we used to kind of come on later in the season, almost too late. And then we really didn't change anything in our prep, but it just seemed like the schedule or the cars or whatever just suited the front end of the season for us. So I think we learned some from last year. We learned some things not to do. I mean, ultimately, it was some things outside of our control that kept us out of the Final Four. But eyes forward, focus forward. I've got a hell of a team. I've got a hell of a group. I've got support like I never thought I'd have. This is a retirement tour. This is the end, and to win race number 2 is not what I expected to happen, and honestly, I couldn't have wished it to be any different. So I'm pumped to go into the remainder of the season. Again, I want to shout out Coca-Cola, NASCAR, iRacing, everybody that puts this on. Thank you guys so much for giving me a platform to race on for the last 12 seasons and 20 plus years. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And Blake, we're going to the playoffs, so I'm going to get off and celebrate here in a bit with the guys. But yeah, thanks so much.
Well, are you going to get off and celebrate? This is coming from Drew, by the way, with some Krispy Kreme.
You know what? I'm so excited right now. I may just have to go for Krispy Kreme and suck it up and do it for Drew. So I'm that pumped. I will go to Krispy Kreme and I will get some donuts just for Drew, my guy.
All right, there you go. Michael Conti, a winner once, but perhaps may not be done in his eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series career. As we look at Nick Ottinger, who dominated a lot of this race. We saw early speed out of your camp last year. You guys locked out the front row at William Byron Esports. What more did you need there, though, to try to chase down your team or your friend in Michael Conti?
Well, first off, congrats to Michael. It's a pretty good feat for his last season to be locked into the playoffs already. So kudos to him. What we needed was just, a little bit better proactiveness from me on the restart, not to get sent by the 7 or whoever was driving it. I think it was Malik. So a little desperation move at that moment because you can't really do nothing else kind of on the starts other than just kind of send a guy. So, well, you know what? You live and learn, and we gave it back to him a little bit later in the race, and we tried to challenge Michael at the end. But our Logitech G machine was pretty fast, so I'm not complaining one bit about the speed we had. Just need to execute better in the driver's seat.
I know it's the Milwaukee Mile now, but I think one of the more interesting combinations that we're looking forward to in racing here, we obviously go off with Milwaukee here. That's kind of outside of the basis of our regular schedule. We also have Monza that's coming up on the schedule that's a little bit different coming up in a couple of months' time. What's kind of your thoughts on that with this slightly different direction and different schedule that we have this year?
I think it's positive. To be frank with you, I don't really look at the whole season at the start of the year. I basically just look at the next race. So at that same token, I look at the next one that's, our next mission and goal. So it's great to have new tracks on the schedule. Great to kind of mix it up a little bit, but, we'll be ready for our next track.
All right, Nick. Well, thank you very much. Congratulations on your second place run tonight.
Thank you.
Matt Ottinger finishes in second, but perhaps the story that we didn't really get to talk about throughout this race was the drive through the field by Garrett Maines, who again gives us a unique perspective right there with the camera on top of your dog in there. Well, Garrett, it was somewhat tumultuous. Kind of tell us about your drive through the field tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured qualifying wasn't going to be my strong suit tonight. I was actually surprised to even have done as well as I did. I was tracking a good lap through 1 and 2, but 3 and 4 got a little tight, and I was like too scared to drive through it because I was like, if I bin this lap completely, I'm going to really be screwed. But, we started on the bottom. We were able to get in line early and just kind of pick people off one by one. Everybody raced really smart for the first 40 laps. I'm sure some people may have seen it as aggressive, but you got to go. It's, Milwaukee, it's one lane. But this really reminded me of legend car racing, and we got those restarts there at the middle stage of the race, and it was like a fight for the bottom. If you were on the top, you were in trouble. And I had a few restarts right to start up there. I had one restart I thought I was going to be really good. I thought I got that 3-wide jump, and then they just kept blocking. And I was like, man, this is like Carl Edwards right here. But we got lucky to escape that one without, a broken car. I have no idea how I got the car slowed down before I hit him, but, got away with one there for sure. And just had the cards kind of fall our way all night. We were able to pick up spots. When we were on the top, we were able to get down, which is a blessing because I know a lot of people went backwards in a hurry, but we were there at the end.
If you want to take that camera and move it around, we'll kind of follow along around your sim rig if you want to show it to us a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me so I'm attached by a wire right here, so just keep that in mind. But so I've made some upgrades to the sim seat this year, and the head cam is, I'm gonna have to take the headset off here, sorry. But yeah, so basically, I added the head cam about a year ago for the stream, and you get to see this view basically right here while you're following along on the stream, so you can kind of see all the force feedback, and when you're wrestling the car, you can really see the movement. You can even see when I lean into the corner a little bit. I swear at Daytona, I'm just like leaning my head over. You can really see who does that when they're driving. It's kind of crazy. You can feel it in your neck after like 200 laps. But yeah, I like to provide the camera for you guys. I don't stream these races during the Coke Series, so give you guys a unique angle to to broadcast.
Well, we definitely use it, and we enjoy the driver's eye view from Garrett Maines. Garrett, congratulations on rounding out the podium today, and good luck at Atlanta in a couple weeks' time.
I appreciate it, and I got to give a huge shout-out to the guys at Victory One and Ryko for all of their hard work on this car. I knew we had a piece. We had a really good long-run car. Huge shout-out to Cover Seal, Bucked Up, MCU Body, and Scott over there. Thank you so much for all your support. Also, shout-out to Lennox for their support.
Let's talk with your top 3 finishers as we take a look at our D-Box 100 full race results tonight. From the Milwaukee Mile, Michael Conti's final margin of victory, 0.283 seconds, and an all-Chevy 1-2. Then a couple of Fords as Garrett Maines and Blake Gray came home 3rd and 4th. Graham Boland comes home in the number 5 spot with Kerwin, Zelensky, Novak, Alt, and Dylan Duvall, your top 10.
Some strong runs out of Kevin King. You see Wyatt Tinsley there, P13, drove through a couple of wrecks to get up there. Ryan Luza rebounds after a tough Daytona for a top 15. Honeycutt Molis, who had a couple of spins, he even ends up with a top 20. So a nice little rebound right there for that Rise Esports entry.
Midfield, Michael Cozy Jr. found himself in some messes tonight. Derek Justice, Colin Keister, Michael Guest, and Matt Busa through the top 25 finishers in this one. Of course, Busa started second. He fell out. Vincent had a good night. He falls down to 26th. Even Derek Bordeaux was 4th on the grid. He finished 29th.
And I got to say, as far as our picks are concerned, obviously, it looks like Alan Cavan is the leader, but Steven Wilson back in 36. That's 2 points in 2 races for Camille. That's a tough start to the year.
Room for improvement, we'll say. Yes. Room for improvement. And hopefully for her sake and whoever she picks, that happens in a couple of weeks' time at the new Atlanta Motor Speedway. Blake, what are we going to see here as you make the trip down to Hampton?
Well, it's tight confines, and this is going to look like what many drivers have described as super speedway racing. So the draft, which lane you want to go to, all those things that we were talking about at Daytona, I mean, the turns here are just as wide as Daytona. So that's the type of racing we're going to see. It should be wild. It should be crazy. And who knows? Maybe we get another surprise winner like Tucker Minter in 2 weeks' time.
We'll wait to see how that one plays out, and we hope that you join us in a couple of weeks' time. But until then, that is it for us here tonight from the Milwaukee Mile. On behalf of the massive team behind the scenes who makes these broadcasts possible, for Camille Salazar-Hadaway and Alan Cavana on the pre-race show, for James Pike downstairs, and then for Blake McCandless and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for joining us and congratulate one of the best who is back in victory lane. Michael Conti is a race winner 4 seasons in a row for the first time in his storied career. This race win coming some 3,857 days after his first career win at New Hampshire in 2012. The road to $300,000 continues in 2 weeks' time on March the 14th from iRacing's virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found exclusively here on the iRacing Esports Network. Till next time, good night from Milwaukee, where Michael Conti wins the D-Box 100.